Please pay respect to Luang Por ครับ First bow. Second bow. Third bow.
Hello to everyone who's joining us from the Zoom platform. Hope you're well. So if you allow me just to give some reflections and then we'll do some meditation. Just for those of you who are joining us from the internet, this morning we had a simple practice of Metta Bhavana, which many of you know, the simple way I do that by feeling the heart chakra and then breathing in and out. May I be well, may you be well. So I'll be referencing that just so you know where I'm coming from. The practice of, I was talking with Yom Pung about language, and language is important, obviously, because that's how we're trying to convey ideas. And so we were talking about pijarana, contemplation, reflection. These kinds of words sometimes don't quite know what they mean. And thinking about that, I would say it all comes under Samma Sankappa. So in the Noble Eightfold Path, you have Samma Ditti, right understanding. And then from that, you have Samma Sankappa, right thought. So that's important to remember that the Buddha didn't teach no thought. Although the realization of no thought, abiding in no thought is important because it's very, very peaceful. But it's not the suppression of thought. It's not the annihilation of thought. It's not a judgment about thought. It's more understanding thought, understanding how to use thought skillfully, and then understanding also how to notice the space of no thought. Okay? And obviously thought is very important. We are intellectual beings as well as emotional and physical beings. And in modern culture, we use thought a lot. We use analysis a lot. And we use the critical faculty a lot. If you think about how much time all of us, even monks, spend on computers and composing various kinds of texts and analyzing how something is done, like even if you were editing a Dharma book on Metta Bhavana, you'd be using your critical faculty. Well, that's not a good word. Let's use another word. The book is about Metta Bhavana. And so the critical faculty is, I don't know about the Buddha's time, what kind of culture they lived in, but it was probably a simpler culture than ours. Ours is intellectually much more, I would think, maybe I'm wrong, much more complicated. So this practice of Metta Bhavana that we did this morning, I think is terribly important on many levels. On one level, it just feels good. It just feels good to say, may you be well, right? And it really feels good to say, may I be well. So on a very simple emotional level, to do something that feels good is good. And it's different than watching Netflix. Netflix might feel good for a while, but it doesn't develop any parami. It's simply like consumer society doesn't develop parami. You just consume. You consume information or entertainment or whatever. So you're very passive in the consumption of the product. And obviously meditation, Metta Bhavana in this case, is developing skill. You have to be quite skillful to do that. You have to take time to do that. And I think as a balance to our perhaps overly intellectualized minds, overly stimulated analytical minds. Overly, is that correct? Well, it is. They're very stimulated intellectually. That if we don't have some kind of a balance to that, then the critical mind is just dominant all the time. And to me, Metta Bhavana is a kind of it's like you every day you take a bath, you brush your teeth, you take care of your clothing, you take care of your kuti, or your environment, you keep it rip-roy, you keep it clean. In the same way, I think Metta Bhavana is part of that. It's just taking care of your heart and mind in a way where you can use the analytical faculty in a skillful way, and yet not that's not the dominant part of your life. You can pick it up and not use it. So it's a tremendously important balance to the critical faculty, I would say. So just like bathing you do every day, hopefully, or you won't have many friends after a while. In the same way, if you do Metta Bhavana a lot, you kind of need to do it, I think. Not that you can't practice without it, but it's very good. We are emotional beings, we have heart, and we need to always awaken to the heart. And the thinking mind is okay, but the feeling heart is terribly important in our lives. So I would suggest that to do Metta Bhavana a lot, do it maybe, I like to do it usually to start my meditation. I go to the heart chakra, may I be well. I use Luang Por, I use my friends, my Kalyana Mitta, bring them to mind. And it's quite easy, really. Because we have kindness and love in our hearts. It's not so very far away. All we just need to remember someone that we love, and it's just very, very simple that way. And then you're always attuning into that part of your psyche. And then when the critical mind is there, it has a balance. If you dismiss the critical faculty, that's not good either, because then you become naive and you don't use thought skillfully. So that was, say, this morning's meditation. But maybe we could think about thinking then, since we're talking about thinking. And these words, contemplation and reflection. And so Samma Sankappa comes from right view, samaditi. So ditti in English, I don't know how you do it in Thai, but ditti can mean, it's translated in two ways in the English texts I've seen, either view or understanding. Now, I prefer understanding because viewpoints can be simply, I prefer understanding. So what is right understanding? Well, one way to see it, it's the texts. Right view is the Four Noble Truths, anicca, dukkha, anatta, paticca samuppada, these different teachings that we have. Okay. But also, another way to look at right understanding is when you stop thinking, when you let go of the analytical mind, the judging mind, and you just notice how things are in silence, that's right understanding, isn't it? Because you're understanding this moment just as it is. And then if you learn to, and that's what I think we're doing in the kind of awakening process, when Luang Por Sumedho says, it's like this, right? He's just asking us, listen, what's this moment like? Listen, what's it like? And if you listen in that way, in that attentive way, then when the mind is creating something around this moment, it shouldn't be this way, I shouldn't be this way, you shouldn't be this way, I want to be somewhere else or whatever, we say, well, that's extra. That's papancha, that's being created on top of the way things are. So you have a kind of entryway into reality, which isn't just intellectual. And then you can apply the teaching, I would say. Then you can apply the teaching because you're awake now. You're noticing the way things are. If you don't do that, quite often where you come from is some judgment. So again, I need to always reference my own difficulties in the practice because they're the same difficulties. But in my understanding of my own fears, I had to awaken to the understanding of fear as an experience before I could practice correctly to try to liberate the mind from fear. And didn't do that for a long time because I wanted to get rid of the fear. I mean, who wants fear? Who wants paranoia? Who wants a panic attack? No, thank you. So my attitude was one of judging and getting rid of. That didn't work. And then right understanding was, first of all, and Luang Por kept saying, you have to make this conscious. You can't try to get rid of it. So I tell this story again and again and again, but I think it's a good example of what we mean by right understanding. I had the theory. I knew the Four Noble Truths. I had it written down and I had memorized it. And I was doing all kinds of, I did Metta Bhavana and I did a Supagamatana and I did like really focused, try to get the jhana meditation. But I never really said, well, what does fear really feel like? Because I was just trying to get rid of the fear. And that's, so obvious to me now, but to then it wasn't, because I was so embedded in an idea that fear is bad. I should get rid of fear. How do I get rid of fear? And then, of course, all these different techniques didn't work because I wasn't really practicing rightly. And then when finally I said, okay, fear, what are you? That was right understanding. Come into my life, fear, right understanding. Because now I could understand fear as an experience. And in the same way, for whatever, kilesa or difficulty you face, that is a very, very important to see what right understanding means. It's an experiential presence to the way things are. The comment that, like, in Canada, we practice a lot with a feeling of cold. You practice a lot with a feeling of hot, but now you're getting some Canadian practice. That's why you brought me here, I think. But like just this morning, coming out here, bare-shouldered. Canadians are actually, they don't like the cold either because we have very warm houses. So it's not like we have thick skin and I don't have any fur, you notice. I'm not a bear. I'm just a delicate little thing. But so just like going out into the cold is like this. And then I can see, there's the tension in the body. And that is right understanding of cold, isn't it? And that's experiential presence to the way things are. And if you do exercises like that around the very mundane and very ordinary, just get really used to doing that. The experience of sound is like this, and then there's silence. Or cold feels like this, and then there's silence. That to me is right understanding. From that, you can begin to see what right thinking is about. So if within that structure of awakening presence to the way things are, I'm noticing some form of discontent, I can start using thought to say, what's that about? What's this discontent about? What does discontent really feel like? Why is there this feeling of lack? And that also brings me to a silent presence. So Samma Sankappa, right thought, is the use of thought to direct your attention to the liberation of the mind, through the themes that the Buddha suggests. It takes something like the sutta we practiced this morning. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace, and so on. That's a very, very good kind of model of how reflection and contemplation work in the teaching. So first of all, in terms of Samma Sankappa or right thought, I study. So that's pariyatti, right? You study something. So I study the Metta Sutta and I memorize it maybe. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright. And I learn like a parrot, maybe. And I can chant it, but I haven't yet reflected on it maybe. I haven't really, really pondered it. Then I slow it all down and I use Samma Sankappa, right thinking, and I use the sutta. This is what should be done. Okay. By one who is skilled in goodness. Okay, do I want to be skilled in goodness? Yeah, that's a reasonable thought. And who knows the path of peace. Do I know the path of peace? I'm not sure. So I start to look in my own mind, because the Buddha is saying, this is the way to go. This is a good way to go. So I'm now using the Buddha's words through my English translation. But it acts as a mirror to my own way, my own attitudes of life. And that's why the word reflection for me is the word of mirroring. It's just like if you've got a really important business appointment, right? And it's really, there's a lot of kind of important people, and you have to really be decked out correctly. You have to have the good outfit on. I have the same outfit all the time, so it doesn't matter. But so, you look in a mirror and you check your shirt or your jacket or your hair. You make sure you're rip roy, right? That's what a mirror does. So in the same way, this is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, able and upright. So now I'm looking in the mirror, and the mirror is indicating, well, you're a bit over here, Viradhammo. You're not very upright. You weren't very honest yesterday. You manipulated that person yesterday. Are you really able and upright? So you begin to see your own attitudes, able and upright. What does that mean? And that presents to you what you're actually doing. It makes you more mindful. Not as a judgment, but just as a reflection. What's skillful, what's unskillful? Able and upright, contented and easily satisfied. Pumak noi. Right? So contented and easily satisfied. That's Samma Sankappa, right thinking. And then I just kind of, actually, I was complaining a lot yesterday. And actually, I wasn't very contented yesterday. I was just complaining about the weather, COVID, whatever. Oh, contented. And that awakens me to the complaining mind. And then the next day or that morning or whenever, I begin to see, wow, I complain a lot. Pumak noi, contented and easily said. Actually, I should work with that. I should really ponder that to practice in that way. And then that brings me to right effort. Right? I can see that's where in this case, my sense of identity, the way my thinking mind works is maybe, say, as an example, a gross example, to complaining all the time. It's too big, it's too small, it's too hot, it's too cold. Like in the suttas, they say the monk who he doesn't want to work. He says, well, it's too early before the meal to work. It's too close to after the meal to work. It's too hot to work. It's too cold to work. There's too much dust to work. There is, he makes all these excuses why he shouldn't work, right? So these kinds of reflections then awaken you to the patterns of ego and self that come up into the mind. Then you can start to do what we call bhavana. And bhavana is development. So let's say, what is Metta Bhavana? Well, first of all, you have to agree that the practice of loving kindness is a good idea. And then, so you have to get it into your mind. Yeah, that would be a good thing to develop. To be kind and compassionate in a consistent way. Yeah, I like that idea. I think I'd like to work on that. So there's a sense of affirmation of what you want to do. And then someone gives you a technique. So whether it's me or someone else or something you read, doesn't really matter. There seem to be a million ways to do Metta Bhavana, but they should produce a similar kind of result. So the technique doesn't matter so much. And then you kind of get the idea, okay, this is how you do it. So that's part of the study. And then bhavana is doing it. It's developing the skill of metta and doing it again and again and again and again and again. And so the bhavana is based on right understanding, based on right thought, and then you have right effort and the factors of samadhi and so on. And then the whole path proceeds in that way. So contemplation or reflection, it is the use of thought, but it is directed thought to themes so that the Buddha gives us and to your own inner world, your own inner world, how it works for you. But say if you take that Metta Sutta and memorize it, contented and humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties. That's a hard one. And I, when I I have less duties now because the monks at Tisserna are fabulous, and they take up all the administrative duties, and I can just talk and play in the workshop. I feel very lucky right now. But at times, say at Amaravati or Mother says, I had a lot of duties, a lot to do. Probably not as much as you, admittedly. I had a lot of space, but then I asked the scholar, I said, does unburdened with duties mean you have very few duties, or the duties that you have, you're not burdened by? He said, you have very few duties. I said, oh dear, now I'm finished. But I could, even though the Pali says that, what am I going to do? Quit? Right? And give someone else the work? I said, no, okay, maybe that's what the Pali says, but Lompa Cha had a lot of duties. Lompa Liam has a lot of duties. Lompa Samira has a lot of duties. I'll give it a go. So then, like, are my duties burdensome? Or can I do them with a light heart? Well, oftentimes, no. Oftentimes I was unsuccessful, but that became the practice. So then it's still the same reflection. So unburdened with duties. And then I say, oh, I'm really worried about this monk, or I'm worried about that project. Okay, that's the burden. That's what I want to practice with. So the teaching is just reminding me of my sense of making the duties burdensome. So if you just, and it's a very lovely sutta, but you need to kind of use it in this way, and you'll find it's very, very stimulating for your practice, because you if you do it each morning, and you do the Metta Bhavana, and you use that language, say right at the end, it says, by not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, is not born again into this world. Now, what does that mean? By not having fixed views, is not born again into this world. Especially now when you have all these viewpoints about vaccines and very strong political positions, people being very rude. At least I know Thailand, no one is rude, right? But in North America, very kind of rude language, and I'm right and you're wrong. You can see people are just reborn into a reality which is just mind created by not holding to fixed views. And you say, well, what does that mean? And that's the idea of a statement like that. It makes you ponder. It makes you think. Fixed views. What could that mean? Well, I have to have views. I'm a dentist, or I'm a doctor, or I manage a company, or whatever. I need to have viewpoints. So that's not wrong. Otherwise, you could never function. Fixed views. What does that mean? Well, that's about ego, isn't it? Like, I'm right and you're wrong. Obviously, you're wrong. I mean, I'm all right. It's just so obvious. What do you mean? So having the capacity to have a viewpoint, hear another viewpoint, disagree with another viewpoint, but not invest a sense of self in the viewpoint. Like if I have an opinion about something which I'm holding very, very strongly, and you give a counter opinion, if I need to strongly defend my opinion, no, you're absolutely wrong. Maybe that's true, but there's a lot of ego in it. Then I don't want to hear your opinion. I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to be wrong. So defensiveness or whatever. So let's say if someone says to me, killing is a good thing. Now, obviously I don't agree with that. Killing is a good thing. Yeah. Like killing for Buddhism is a really good thing. You get some kind of crazy stuff like that going on now. And they're adamant. I can disagree with that. I can even call the cops if the person, wants to kill someone. But I don't have to suffer about that. I don't have to beat this person up for their wrong view. I can try to persuade them, but I still feel I'm right. I still feel it's appropriate. I still have a viewpoint, but I'm not fixed with an ego. They're wrong. They couldn't be that way. And we find this sometimes in the Sangha. If you're in the history of the Sangha, like strong viewpoints about like the Kosambi schism that took place. I was just quoting a bit of the sutta. These monks were just arguing about some Vinaya point. And when you look back, I said, what are you guys doing? And the Buddha tries to kind of rectify the argument. And they basically say, we'll be okay. You go meditate. To the Buddha. No mark. And so eventually the Buddha leaves and he finds another place. And they eventually, the lay people won't give them any food. And they finally call the Buddha back and they solve their differences. But they're so ki de, is that how you say? Stubborn? De. Anyway, and you know, like people who are very opinionated, like in Wapapong, I often heard monks commenting about someone who was very stubborn. We said, Miditi Mak, has a lot of viewpoints, has a lot of opinions, is very opinionated, we say. And that kind of mindset is always stuck in thought, stuck in a kind of projection of what truth is. And I think what, say, like Luang Por says, it's like this. He's trying to bring us to the truth, which is before thinking, before judging and analyzing. And then if I ask you, what does this moment feel like? You start to just notice the silence of being. And the silence of being is not a thought, but it's always there. So have a look at like your views and opinions, and don't be afraid of having an opinion, but also don't make that your identity or your warfare with others. So before we meditate, just maybe in terms of silence of being, I might just encourage you to remember noble silence, because this the silence of being is something which is really enhanced when you obviously practice noble silence. So maybe just keep that in mind, that, and also try not to draw others out into speech. Sometimes people want to be quiet, but then someone else is kind of gregarious and they want to talk, then they feel grangjai not to talk, right? And they're drawn out into talking, so kind of protect them. It's a valuable time. And I know, like for some people, if you're very gregarious, noble silence is difficult. Like I was always a solitary guy, so I found like noble silence and modesty pretty easy, but others found it more difficult. But just keep that in mind as a way of keeping the tone of silence inwardly. Okay, let's stretch our legs and then we'll do a meditation. So, maybe 5 minutes? With posture, if you have a lot of pain and discomfort, obviously it's difficult to meditate, and you get wrapped up in trying to hold the body and control the body. So if you find difficulty sitting on the floor, please use a chair. Find something that's comfortable. And if even in the middle of a sitting you're getting a lot of pain and you need to move into a chair, that's fine. That's a good idea. Let's use the same patterns then. Listen to sound. So here there's some machinery outside. But notice when you're just listening, it doesn't really matter the quality of sound, unless it's very extreme, of course, but it can be a machine outside or people talking, but allowing sound to be conscious is not a judgment. You're not choosing a sound. So receptive awareness. And again, notice the silence before you think about anything, just the silence of knowing. Abide as that silence of knowing, be that silence of knowing. And then feel the body. Maybe we'll just begin with the heart chakra just to soften things up. So feel the center of the chest, rising, falling, and the silence of knowing. And then welcoming in at the center of the chest, and letting go out. Enjoying the breath. And then let's return to the kind of body meditation we did earlier. Bring attention to your mouth. Go inside the mouth. Feel the sensations in the left cheek. Let that be conscious as feeling, as sensation. So notice you localize your attention to the mouth, but not so much concentrating as just composing or collecting. And then you start to feel something. And there's the silence of knowing. Inside the mouth, the right side of the cheek, right cheek. Feel the upper palate as sensation, upper teeth. Feel the lower palate and lower teeth as sensation. Feel the tongue. And the lips. Now feel the whole mouth as a mass of sensations, vibrations radiating. The ears go to the inner structures of the ears, the ear canals. So whether you feel something strongly or not doesn't really matter. You're attentive to that area. Feel the outer structures of the ears as vibration. So let go of thinking. Make conscious the sensations in the nose, the bridge of the nose, and the nostrils. The eyes, the bony parts of the eye, the orbits of the eyes. Let that be conscious. So quite often we are looking for something and our eyes have strain. Now we're seeing that the sensation of eyes are in awareness. They're objects in awareness. Feel the eyes themselves. The temples. The scalp. Top of the head. Inside the top of the head. Inside the skull. Silent knowing. Back of the head. Feel the back of the neck. Make conscious the sensations in the jaw, the hinge of the jaw, the muscles of the jaw. No thought, no thought. Feel the whole head as sensation in awareness. Listen to sound. Notice the changing nature of sound. Feel the whole head. Notice the sensations changing. Listen to sound. Feel the head. What is changing and what is unchanging. So there's knowing of change. Be the knowing. Feel your throat. Feel the sides of the neck. The back of the neck. The whole neck as sensation. Feel the left shoulder. Feel the upper arm, outside of the arm, the warmth inside the upper arm as sensation. The elbow, the left forearm, the left wrist, left thumb, forefinger, middle finger, ring finger, and small finger. Feel the palm of the left hand. Feel the whole left hand, whole left arm as sensation. Changing. Be the knowing of change. Right side, right shoulder. Upper arm, right side, warmth against the body. Right elbow, forearm, right wrist, in the right hand. Right thumb, forefinger, middle finger, ring finger, small finger, palm of the right hand, the whole right hand, the whole right arm as sensation. Feel both arms. Connect that to the neck and the head. Now listen to sound. So the sound of the digger is a coarse sound. It's loud. That's its quality. But the knowing has no quality. And then feel your body. And that's a more refined sensation. But the knowing has no quality. Be the knowing. Back to the body, feel the throat. And go inside the chest area. Feel inside the rib cage. Inside the upper spine. Feel the lungs and the heart. As sensation changing, be the knowing. Abdominal area. Feel the lower spine and lower rib cage. And the organs in the area, stomach, intestines, liver, kidneys, whatever you feel there, let it be sensation. And the pelvic area, feel the pelvic bones. Feel the weight of the body on your cushion. And then the organs in the pelvic area. Feel the hips. Let the hips be sensation. Coming into consciousness. And the thighs. both knees, lower leg, ankles, and feet. Put it all together, both legs, pelvis, abdominal area, chest area, torso, arms, shoulders, neck, and head. Now witness the body as sensation, changing, vibrating, an object in awareness. Listen to sound. Changing object in awareness. Feel the body. Changing object in awareness. Be the knowing. Knowing has no quality. It doesn't change. It knows. So just be the knowing of change. So from this, you can choose an object of awareness. But what's important is the awareness or the knowing. So choose the breathing of the body. Feel an in-breath. Feel an out-breath. Notice the changing nature of breath. And then be the knowing. So bhavana, or development or training now, in being the knowing, located with breathing. All right, I'll be quiet for the rest of the sitting. With the walking meditation, maybe I suggest make just a very simple intention, present moment awareness, so that as you're walking back and forth, you use your body, obviously, and just feel your body moving. You don't have to be too focused, although some people like to be very focused. Just simply the feeling of the feet touching the ground, something like that. But make the main observation what your mind is doing. And then if you put an intention like present moment awareness and notice the mind moving to past and future, and let go of past and future. So then it becomes a kind of theme that you can pay attention to. So as the mind starts to plan, just say, don't go there. And as the mind starts to churn up memory, don't go there. And then just try to be in the present moment. If you have, on the other hand, if you have some really emotional material coming up, then just stop and feel it in the present moment rather than as memory, but as actually visceral feeling. And a simple theme like that is very, very instructive. And you see how often the mind's just going past, future. And you're just very patient with it, not trying to get rid of it. Just, okay, planning. Don't go there. And then quite often you just stop and listen, and constantly bringing in the gaps of silence. Constantly just doing that, little gaps of silence, little gaps of knowing. Let that build up for you. It's very simple. And just be patient with that process. So this is what we mean by bhavana. We're just training in a gentle way, but diligently, and keep to the same kind of process of awakening. Okay? All right.